All right. So funny picture first here. Hilarious, hilarious. I was looking through another account and whatever. I forget where I found it. It was on Twitter, but I found this picture. I thought it was hilarious. So there are a couple other pictures that are very funny. But anywho, let's move on. It's somewhat apropos because we're going to talk about Haiti, Cuba, South Africa right now. I'm just going to touch on these issues. This is just more of an update video, kind of see what's going on. So, Haiti, not much progress in terms of finding out who did what has happened. But let's go ahead and see. Well, New York Times isn't going to let me because they're going to. Okay, 3 suspects. Okay, this is from Yahoo News, so take it all with a grain of salt, of course. Were killed in a bloody shootout holdup in a concrete building, report says. Okay, suspects in the killing of Haiti's president were pinned down in a shootout. The network retraced the aftermath where 25 men were pinned down in a concrete building. Some died, while some escaped to hide in the conveniently empty Taiwanese embassy. Remember that President Moise was a big fan of Taiwan. Seems like the Taiwanese weren't that dumb. They're like, we're clear now. Much is still unclear about the July 7th attack, citing a source. Among them, 2 were Haitian American suspects taken alive. 2 hostages were members of the Presidential Guard. After Moise had been shot in his home, we could hear them talking and chatting in Spanish, the same shit that has already been said. Let's see here. 3 suspects were killed in the exchange of gunfire. Okay, so they end up Basically, a lot of it is still up in the air, as far as I can see. It's still messy. It's still very up in the air. Cuba. I'm a political prisoner from the island of Cuba. What's going on in Cuba? Well, austerity measures, lack of food, and just an economy that is crumbling. Now, I saw Vash's very disdainful video. I'm sorry to keep using his name, but disdainful video where it's like, this isn't what socialism should be. It's awful what's going on there, but the enemy of my enemy is not always my friend. The world is complicated. That's basically his ending. And of course he'll say, oh, well, the right wing all wants to destroy Cuba. And the thing is, look, Cuba has done what it has had to do. And I'm sure that Cuba is in an awful place. The thing is that, a lot of countries, most countries said, just lift the embargo. But they choose not to. The United States and Israel. Of course, they'll say that there's back and forth crap where it's like, oh, yeah, well, Israel is simply a military base for the U.S. What? I still don't get that. I'll be honest with you. I still don't get that, where it's like, okay, if that's the case, then if the United States fell, so would Israel. And that's not going to happen, in my opinion. That's the logic that I use. Now, of course, people are going to say, oh, it's wrong, this and that. Oh, See, the thing is, you can go too far down the rabbit hole. And to me, the rabbit hole of, X country is simply a vassal of the U.S. is wrong. I think Israel is still an independent country. It's crazy to me, because the thing is, there are numerous incidents, in my opinion, that tell me, yeah, Israel is going to do what it's going to do. You know, Israel right now is trying to separate itself to a point from the United States. They are working with China. They are, going to continue to bilk Israel. I mean, they're going to bilk themselves. They're going to bilk Europe. So, I mean, to me, it's silly. It's silly to me, all this type of shit where you're just like, oh yeah, Israel is the military's largest military base. I still don't get that. It's like, oh, Israel is simply a colony of the U.S. and of Britain. It's like, yeah, Britain did have involvement, but anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So anyway, Cuba, sanctions aren't lifted. Austerity measures are in place. They have talked about reforming to capitalism. And I think that Cuba should hold on as long as they can, And there's an attempted color revolution coming. And of course, you have people like Caleb Boppin, who are trying to change that image and be like, yeah, don't fall for it, this and that, because they see it as another color revolution. And I agree. Yeah, hold on, Cuba. That's all I can tell you. Hold on. I think the United States is eventually going to break apart. So I think that's the only, like I say, maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe I'm just a one-trick pony, but balkanization is the only answer for this. Once the U.S. as a federal entity no longer has the power to hold, a monopoly over world trade in the Western Hemisphere. I know there's a lot of positives in there, but yeah. Then those sanctions will go away. Let's finish up with good old South Africa. Let's see what's going on there. So once Jacob Zuma, I had no idea about this, but Jacob Zuma is Zulu. And for those that know the complicated history of South Africa, you have the Zulus, you have what's known as the Coloreds. That is what they are called. That is not something, no. Is that they're light skinned. So they call them Coloreds. So, which comes from kind of the Khoisan tribe. I know that, of course, people say that's a canard that's used by white supremacists that say that, they were friends with, the African tribes and the Bantus. Primarily. There are other groups as well. You also have Indians, of course, scattered throughout Africa because they were brought there by the British. Yeah. Anyway, give me just a moment. I'm going to just leave that in. Okay. But South Africa has many different populations that live there. You could also bring up the Muslims as well, and, the difference between the Boers and the Afrikaners. I've heard, of course, Boers being the farmers and everything else like that are different from the Afrikaners, which live in the cities. So I guess you could say that, certain, the Brits to a point can be seen as Afrikaners. And then, of course, you have the French Huguenots and all that. But basically, we do see a tribal aspect here. Now, Haiti, now let's break this down. The similarities and the differences. Haiti, Cuba, South Africa. These are all places that are fairly poor economically. They're rich in resources. And they do have, abilities there. But in general, if we want to look at GDP, if we want to look at the IMF version of things, then these are considered weak countries. And I know people say, well, not South Africa. South Africa has been slowly turning into crap. Now, of course, there are people that will cope, that will say, oh, if only the ANC had done this. Oh, the ANC had done that. Oh, yeah, but so what? The thing is, though, the corruption has occurred, ever since, if we want to get into Mandela, of course, you can say, Mandela's a commie, this and that. But, from him to Mbeki to Zuma to Ramaphosa to minority parties like the EFF and the BLF, we see movements of black liberation, this and that. But of course, they've had to adapt to the times, such as the EFF. You'll hear, Julius Malema say, we accept homosexuals, this and that, right? That was more, I didn't mean to be, yeah. He said basically that, they're more accepting of homosexuals now. It's a very cringe thing that kind of makes, I imagine that makes people like Tariq Nasheed kind of be like, kind of sus. But yeah, we see that South Africa primarily sets itself apart in the sense of tribalism. I imagine there is still tribalism in Haiti and in Cuba. But I imagine it's very, very different, where South Africa still has that legacy, and the Zulu nation wants their land. And, the Bantu, historically, of course, the Bantus reject this. This has been known since since South Africa became an independent nation in 1994. I'm not going to sit here and defend apartheid or any of this. No. I'm not going to do that, because we're not going to live in the past like that. But it's a very big mess. Haiti, people will cope about that and will say, oh, they want to punish, the West continues to want to punish Haiti because of 1804, because of the rebellion. What they'll never talk about, though, is the aftermath of that rebellion, where slavery continued and Dessalines was killed. They don't seem to want to talk about that. They'll maybe even admit it. And, that you'll have people like, I'm trying to think of his name now. I genuinely cannot remember his name. But basically what he said was that, Haiti was a thriving country. But then you had, Papa Doc put in and, just cope. And the thing is, of course, is that Haiti and the Dominican Republic are cut in half. And of course, we heard good old, I'm trying to think of his name now. David Packman say, oh, the racist white nationalist beliefs that that the Dominican Republic is more successful. They took over the whole island of Hispaniola. The Haitians did. And the Hispanos over in the Dominican Republic beat them back. And arguably, you can say that there was a semi-fascist government, if you will, however way you want to paint that, in the Dominican Republic. You know, I think that it's very telling. Now, of course, the Dominican Republic slightly better than Haiti, but that's a whole, like I said, very complicated thing. You know, Cuba as a whole, you know, obviously under a socialist regime, you know, that of Castro. But of course, now that even Castro's brother is getting too old, they're like, So now they have their new president. But there have been talks. You know, the late James McAfee went to Cuba for a brief time and said, you know, y'all should get into crypto. Now, who knows how close they came to saying, yeah, our economy should be based on crypto. My gut feeling is that it didn't come that close, but I have a feeling that some people were recommending it. So you have a lot of this stuff happen. I mean, I've already talked about South Africa enough. Of course, people are talking about apartheid. Of course, talk about Mabuas and all this other stuff and say how evil it is. The thing is, if all the honkies left South Africa, it'd still be a mess. This is why I was going to call this video and just do a separate video on South Africa and say, excuse me, and call it the myth of Pan-Africanism, because South Africa shows that it is a myth that Pan-Africanism can never be a thing. I think people still LARP about it. I'm not going to say it would never happen. I'm sure that there would be elements of it, but to think that it would be like all of Africa would be united, I don't believe that. I don't. And we see that here. You know, whether it's, you know, the Bantus or the Xhosa. Oh yeah, there's the Xhosa people as well. You know, that's where Mandela came from, is the Xhosa people. Or the Xhosa. Is it Xhosa? Xhosa, yeah. Xhosa. Yeah. So you have the Xhosa or the Xhosa. I don't know why I keep throwing in an extra H. Yeah, but the Xhosa, Bantus, Zulus, white folks, the Indians. You have all these different groups. Of course, the majority is Bantu. War declared on civilians. It's funny to me. I see white. Oh, this is Julius. This is his Twitter. I see white civilians armed and shooting live ammunition at unarmed civilians. Please don't say they started. Please don't say they started, but your response will possibly be matched. Okay. Some of you are even calling for a state of emergency. Be careful what you're asking for. As usual, they're going to kill the innocent in honor of Collins Koja and all citizens who were harassed during level 5. Say no to soldiers. Give me a break. Give me a break, Julius Malema. Give me a break. You know why I tell you give me a break? Because you would do the same thing. You know, you have your EFF thugs come in. Like I said, I know people are, yeah. Indians are going hunting for black people and shooting at random. Oh, yes. Here we go. This is kind of goes to the whole sort of Wignut idea where it's like, oh, you know, black folks are strong. Black folks are tough. But now they're being hunted by Indians. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Indians are shooting black people at random. This sounds ridiculous, yeah. Vincent Park Mall in East London evacuated after protesters attempt to storm center. Oh, here we go. Straight from EFF, yeah. Diloma Le Barafi. Even those who advocate for the deployment of soldiers will not be spared by the soldiers' brute force. No to soldiers. Send in the goons instead, Yeah, in Durban. Yeah. The useless police won't even do anything to these white thugs. And like I said, the narratives show up. Look at this. They're at a distance. They're not chasing them down. I know. People just, yeah. Since Zinzi Mandela passed away, yeah. Oh, she was a daughter of. Oh, okay. Oh, really? Oh, she got COVID. Okay. Sorry. I'm getting distracted. But yeah. I don't know if I did a good enough job explaining all three of those events realistically, but I think that hopefully I'm a slight bit of fresh air, slightly bit to kind of describe these issues. Like I say, you should do your own research on these things and whatnot. I'm still laughing at this Gaddafi picture. That is hilarious. Ah. Being born Mexican really helped this time. Oh, man. Anywho, so that's what's going on, at least from my vantage point of what's going on. I think it's just more of a control of. The thing is, they just finally want to they want to bring the hammer down on Cuba. I do. I think that Cuba is one of those last countries to resist. And I think while Cuba does have allies, I've heard this before. It's like, yeah, Cuba does have allies. I think Hello 99 in my comments was saying this. But I think that what are their allies going to do? Are they going to try to reinstall the socialist government in Cuba? I don't know. Haiti, apart from, Pan-Africanists and black nationalists who are like, Haiti, nothing's going to happen with Haiti. Haiti is eventually going to be forgotten, as it always has, unfortunately. South Africa is a mess. Once again, another country that, you could blame apartheid, you can blame the false integration of these various peoples. Blame whatever you want to. South Africa. Oof. That's all I can say about that. But yeah. So that's all I have to say. That was a long, ranty sort of thing. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe I can measure it out by minutes of how much I talked about each one, but I tried to balance it out somewhat well. Anywho, I'm just rambling at this point. Hopefully y'all enjoy this. See you later. Goodbye.